Today I did an experiment to see if I can turn this tough top round roast into a more tender cut of meat. That's right, the price of it was pretty good, so I said, hey, I'm gonna experiment a little bit. So this is a beef top round roast, choice grade, and the cost of it wasn't too much. It was about $12. Well, actually $12.40, and the weight is about 3 pounds and 28 ounces. And I also purchased some fat from the meat deli, and this right here is what I'm going to use to see if I can get this top round roast to become a tender roast. That's right. The test here is to see if you can make a tough cut of meat into a more tender cut of meat. Remember, experiment. So for you people that like to leave comments about how I should cook it, remember, this is an experiment. All right, so I'm going to need some unwaxed butcher paper that I purchased on Amazon. And then I'm also going to be using some butcher's twine, also called cooking string, or some people call it kitchen twine. But this is the stuff we're going to use to tie the butcher paper around the meat. And then, of course, I'm going to be using some Kinder's today, some Kinder's prime rib rub. And this stuff works well on beef. And I got to say, I even tried it on some chicken, and it came out pretty darn good. It has a lot of seasoning in there. It clings to the meat really, really well, and it gives the meat, most of all, some great, amazing flavor. And this stuff, I got it at Costco for a pretty good price, and Costco sells, the good sized containers of this stuff, not the small ones. All right, so after that, you're going to need the meat, of course. So here is the top round roast. You can see it does have some marbling in it, and it does have some fat on it, but it's not really the type of fat that breaks down really, really well, and it's not enough fat to give the meat that moisture that I'm aiming for. But this is a nice chunk of meat, and hey, I'm gonna see if I can turn this baby into a more expensive prime cut of top round roast. All right, so let's get it started. All right, the fat, the main ingredient, well, one of the main ingredients, and this is the fat that I purchased at the meat deli at my local grocery store. And some parts of this fat is the fat that doesn't break down too well when it's smoked or cooked, but it does release the oil, the beef fat into the meat, which is what I'm aiming for. And then I have some bigger slabs of it, which works well because I need to cover this whole piece of roast with fat. All right, so got the butcher paper, and it is time to season this baby up. That's right, and this is the Kinder's prime rib rub. And just make sure you coat it on there really, really good. You don't have to add oil on top of your meat to make sure the rub sticks. This stuff sticks pretty good on the meat. And remember, you are going to be adding fat on top of it, and you are going to be wrapping it. So all that flavor is going to stay in place. And this is the fat. That's right. We're going to lay down some fat. Well, I'm going to lay down some fat. I'm going to season it up just a little bit. And then after that, I'm going to also rub it in real good. All right, so as you can see, it's not rocket science. For you people out there that like to barbecue and smoke meat and cook, you know how to add rub to the meat to make sure it's on there and covered pretty good. All right, so that's what I'm doing right here. And I did speed up the video so that way you wouldn't have to watch me do it in real time. All right, so got the meat covered on the bottom pretty good. Now I have this big slab of fat right here. And it almost seems like that this was meant to be. Look how good it fits on top of that meat. It's almost like it was cut off of it, but it wasn't, because I purchased the meat at Winco and I got the fat at Vaughn's, aka Safeway. All right, so adding another piece of fat to the side, so that way all of that fat can give all of that flavor. And then I'm going to wrap it up and I'm going to tie it down. Now, if you want to know how to tie string on meats and wrapping and butchering paper and all of that stuff, there are a few videos out there, and they have specific knots that they use to tie the string. But in this case, I'm keeping it simple, and I'm just going to wrap it and tie it all up. That's right. It's not rocket science here, guys. So there we go. I sped up the video because it took me a minute to get this wrapped up and tied up. All right, so after you get it tied up, it's time to go to the timer on my watch, and it is 12:21. I'm keeping track of the time, and I'm going to be using the thermometer that comes with my Traeger, so that way I can just push the button without opening up the grill and read the temperature of the meat. All right, so it's nice and cleaned off, and this baby is ready to go to work with this big old chunk of meat. All right, so I put it in the center of the grill. That's where the heat likes to do its thing the best, cook up the meat and it's even. And I put in the meat thermometer. Just take note that when you're using your thermometer, make sure you push it through the layers of fat actually and put it into the meat. So for 4 hours, I let it smoke, and this is 4 hours later. And guess what? It's time to unwrap the meat and let it smoke for half an hour. Look at all of that fat oil on the butcher paper. This might have worked pretty good. Look at it. There's a lot of oil in there, which means the top round roast stayed moist. It didn't dry out. And it has some really, really good flavor from that Kinder's prime rib rub. And as you can see, I'm unwrapping it at a faster pace because I did fast forward the camera a little bit. But look at the chunk of meat. It has a lot of fat in there, and I did put it to the side because it does have some juices in there, just in case I want to use that juice to pour it back onto the meat. All right, so I put the oily, greasy wrapping paper to the side, butcher paper to the side, and look at the meat. I'm putting the meat thermometer in. It has those nice chunks of flavor on there, and it looks good and it smells good. So this is going to go on for a half an hour, lid closed, and the half an hour is up. Total cook time, 4.5 hours. Yes, 4.5 hours of cook time. The smoker temperature did drop because I did open the grill, but it did do those 30 minutes at 55 degrees. 250 to 255 degrees, it did smoke. All right, so it's time to take this baby off. That's right, look at it. And I did cook the meat to be a medium rare, so I'm expecting it to have some redness in there. I'm expecting it to be nice and tender. And so far it feels tender. And if you know how to do the tender test of beef by pressing on the palm of your hand, that's what I'm looking for. And this feels like it's going to be a medium rare cut. All right, here we go. Here is the unveiling of this experiment, of this test of how to turn a tough cut of meat into a tender cut. I did let this meat rest for 30 minutes. So for you guys out there that are saying, did you let it rest? Well, yes, I let it rest for 30 minutes. And now I am cutting into it, and you can see the juice on this baby. I did not pour any juices on this after I cooked it. This is just how juicy it is. Look at it. Beautiful, lovely. And the smell of it, that prime rib rub and that smoke. Yes, indeed. This is tender. Now, of course, I'm going to do the good old pull test. That's a little pull, but you know, this is tender. It falls apart pretty good. This is something that I would do if I didn't want to spend a lot of money on cooking a big, well, you have to, you know, if you're cooking a big dinner, but you want to be cost effective, you want to save some money, then this is it. I think this is a good way to do it. I spent under $20 on this nice chunk of meat, and for the leftovers, I did do a video to show you what to do with it, which was making a French dip. But look at this, y'all. This is a nice cut of meat. This was a cheap cost. This was a tough cut of meat, and it is no longer tough. It is tender, it is tasty, it is juicy, it has a lot of flavor in it. The Kinder seasoning did justice to this, and I am excited about this. This is something I think you guys should try, and if you do give it a try, make sure you comment down below and you let me know that you gave it a try. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.